Okay, welcome. This is an oral history recording of Aryeh Mergi and Dov Moran, who are located in Israel. I'll let them give you specific locations. My name is Doug Fairbairn with the Computer History Museum, and I'm joined by Brian Berg, who is a friend of and very knowledgeable of the work that our two interviewees have done and that we'll be talking about today. Today is September 8th, 2020, and we're delighted to have you both here, record your respective stories and perhaps most importantly, your joint work together in the area of flash memories. So welcome and thank you for joining us. So what I would like to do is to begin is have each of you give a short, 5-minute plus little history of yourselves, where you were born, when you were born, a little bit about your family life, people who might have been important in influencing you in the direction you took, university you attended, and working up to the time in which you started working together. So Dov, if you could begin, please give us a little bit of your personal background.
Sure. First, great seeing you. I'm Israeli. I was born in Israel. My parents actually were immigrants to Israel from Poland, survivors from the Holocaust. My father was a son, was brother. He had there were 7 brothers and sisters in the family. And he was the only one who actually survived, arrived to Israel with his father. So his father left the war without 6 out of his 7 children. All of the factories, things that he built in Poland, he was a true entrepreneur, my grandfather. And they put all behind them, but they survived and came to Israel. And for many years, I lived together with my grandfather, actually at the same room. And until the age of 18, exactly 1 week before I was supposed to join the army, he passed away. But he was an entrepreneur. I do believe that he gave me this, he taught me how to become entrepreneurs. I still have many of his words, blowing at my mind. And I went to Technion to study engineering because for me it was very obvious that I have to be engineer. And studied in Technion before joining the Israeli Army, Air Force, or Navy. In Israel, everybody goes to serve, everybody needs to serve 3 years at the Army. But you can study before actually joining as engineers in this case. But I had a very, very interesting service at the Army. While my date of joining to the Army was October 16, 1973. And if you can take it backward, Yom Kippur War, middle of the war, I was drafted, did a very, very fast training for tanks. I was a tank driver. I was at Syria area, which we conquered in the war for about 6 months. Very interesting time of my life. Left the tanks, went to study, finished Technion, did an artillery course. I'm an artillery officer as well, and went to the Navy to do my service. And my first job at the Navy was running the computer department, first at the communication part of the Navy, then at the communication center. And I became the head of the microprocessors department of the Navy. This is where we actually got to know each other. I'll be happy to hear his story of how we got each other. But we'll hear it soon. We never discussed it actually.
Yeah, that's testing my memory.
I have a great memory. I have a flash memory. I don't forget anything, guys. Maybe the number of flight cycles is a bit limited, but I don't forget. And when I left the Navy, I served 8.5 years overall. Most of the people are serving 3 years. Some are doing it 5 or 6 years because of they work at the job. I enjoyed very much what I was doing. And maybe one of the most fascinating things, when I was this year at the Navy microprocessor department, we had almost zero project with microprocessors, but through the time, there were more and more projects. When I finished my service, I do remember that the Navy, my department, my small, actually became very large department, had 23 projects for the Navy. All of them dealt with microprocessors. And I was like a king, you know, I was going to CDRs, critical design reviews, and approve this approve this, is this guy going there, this guy joining this activity, programmers at our center. So I left the Navy, I said, of course I'm going to establish my own company. Shall I really go to work for Tadiran, Elbit, Elta, these are Israeli companies who worked for the Navy? I could be better. And of course I was very, very stupid. Yeah, I do admit. So I established my first company without any clue about how to establish companies, any direction, no funding. In Israel in these days, you could not actually raise money, and raising money seems to me as a very strange thing, because my father used to tell me that money is not growing on trees. How can you raise money? You raise tomatoes, you raise flowers. But money? What's that? And then I gathered people who worked for me. And my story about Aryeh, I'll let you tell it and then I take back. Okay. So anyway, gathered around me good people. And by the way, good people is really the formula for success. And I was successful as much as I was successful only because my capabilities to go and find the right people, not because of anything else. I wasn't smart in electronics and the best guy with I am innovative. Many of the products came out of my head. And I do understand what I'm doing, and I do have logic, but basically what stands behind my success is people. And so I began to gather the people around me. At some stage, I went to the US, and truly it wasn't related to Flash yet. But as a company, we needed to survive. Otherwise, I didn't have money to live. So we had to do projects. And we began to do projects for other companies. So we developed our own products. Educate, remember? We talk about it.
This is, just for clarification, you're talking about MSystems or some previous company?
This is the pre-MSystems. I left the Navy at about 1986. And this is 3 years where I was a company, Moran Systems, yeah, and which I made later on MSystems. And through this process, I knew one thing. I want to run my own company. I want to do our products. I want to create value. I want to work with amazing people. And I understood at some time that in order to succeed, I really have to go out of the Israeli ecosystem and to go to America. And I had the chance to go actually through a project that we have done for Israeli company called Tadiran. Shortly about this project, I had good relations with Tadiran. I got to know these people for my service. So one day I went to see them and I had to initiate my own project. So I couldn't just wait for projects to come. I went to them and say, guys, how about making a computer terminal to talk one chip to another using a regular PC? And they said, no, it's a bad idea because, hey, it's on the ships, it has to be rugged, but we do have an idea. How about making a rugged PC? I said, of course, we can do it. What's the problem? Clearly, I had no clue how to do it. And the story is that there were two great guys I worked with at the Navy. And it's not yet the story, how did we know each other? And I got this, Tadiran was ready to give me this project. So I called Aryeh and Alex, two guys who worked for me in the Navy. And they came to see me in Ramat Gan. It's a city nearby Tel Aviv. I said, guys, we have this project. And can you do it? And I see that both of them were still in the Navy or Technion these days. Navy?
Yeah, still in the Navy, I think.
At the end of their days of the Navy.
Yeah.
Say, it doesn't matter, come on, work at the evenings, we'll do something. And we did this for Tadiran. And in this device, actually, I came with amazing idea. This is a PC. It's a rugged PC. Not easy to make something like that because these days there were no screens, no displays, and really I had to find solution of an LCD that could be rugged and things like that and adapted. But how do you put solid state drive into that? There's no space, the ruggedness doesn't fit. So and excuse me for talking for you here. So I said, I can actually put a RAM disk, a RAM, into this PC. This is 1987, 86, 87. I can put a RAM into this PC and put a battery. So this will serve like a hard disk, and whenever you turn off the power, the data will be kept because, hey, there is battery. Let's do it. We did it. It works amazingly. It worked so well that when Tadiran won a project for the US Marines called HTU, SHTU, S stands for what? HTU was Handheld Terminal Unit. They said, guys, can you actually take this PC and make it smaller for us? We said, of course. Aryeh. and actually, Aryeh and the other guys worked on that and did an amazing job. And we bought this project, which became a huge success. This was the standard, S stands for standard handheld terminal unit. And this became great success. And that's actually the way I went to the States because they needed the support, my support for halftime at a company called Miltop at Long Island. Miltop was the Tadiran representative. And I said, okay, it's a good opportunity for me to understand the US market. I'll work half-time at this company, Miltop. Half-time, I'll look for our projects. I'll learn the market. I see what is this place, United States of America? What the hell is it? And sitting there at Miltop, these guys used to do Miltop military tapes and hard drives, which actually worked very bad. So I said, guys, maybe you should do RAM disk. We can do for you RAM disk and it works very well. Look at this HTU. Internally, there is a RAM disk with the battery backup. And they said, wow, you really can do it? I said, yes. I said, okay, but battery is bad. I went to the CEO. He said, wonderful idea, but battery for military purposes, it's a big problem. This was actually the beginning of getting to Flash, getting to MSystems, but I will stop here. I'll let Aryeh tell his story, and then we go back to the story of MSystems.
Okay, Aryeh, before you begin, Dov, would you just fill in a couple of details? When were you born? What year were you born?
I was born in Israel in 1955, so I'm 65 years old now.
Okay. When did you enter the university, Technion?
I began the Technion when I was 18 and a half, and I finished after 3.5 years, actually.
And what years were you in the military service?
So I joined I joined the service at 73, I finished my studies, 74 I began Technion, finished at 77. 77 I began the service at the army, and I left at the end of 1985, 86. I served 8.5 years.
And that's when you started Moran Systems?
And this is when I started Moran Systems, where the first name was Dikla, and then it became Moran Systems, which later on became MSystems. Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks for filling in that reference. So Aryeh, he has turned it over to you. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you were born, when you were born, and so forth, and then later on.
Okay, great. I was born in 1961 in Morocco, actually. And my parents came to Israel together with me when I was at the age of 3. It was 1964. Where the first years in Israel were very difficult. Israel was in its early days, and there weren't economically strong as it is today. And they actually worked their way up and they became some merchants. They have stores that they build their own, and they build actually their own business. And in time became financially stable. Looking back, I think that those years gave me like the strength, the internal strength to do things on my own, and be able to cope with the uncertainties of starting a business. When we started, we just didn't know if we'll have money for the next day in some of the days, right? And when I was a kid, I was really attracted to electronics, and then what it became as computers. Now, in the early days, I remember that my parents bought me as a present an SDK 80, which was like an Intel first SDK for the 8080 CPUs at that time. And then I upgraded to SDK 85, and I remember spending my time like learning how to program it. It had a keypad, an 16 keys keypad that you could program byte by byte in binary code. And I knew the Intel CPU assembler by heart. The numbers, not just the instructions.
By hex or octal, huh?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And from that, I moved on to build the computer games and selling them door to door, where I grew up. It was like when I was like 16 years old or something like that. And then I joined the Army and the Navy. And I was responsible on a computer system. Actually, it was a computer that was built in the UK, actually, for some reason. And the Israeli Navy is actually very, very small. So we were like, in our unit, we were like one person that was responsible on this system at a time. So he did everything. And one of the projects that was really relevant to what we did later, without knowing that, right? The storage of this computer, it was by a company called Ferranti that I think doesn't exist anymore. Was a bubble memory, 24 kilobyte bubble memory. And the Navy had really hard time getting replacement parts of it at some point. So one of the projects that we did is we built a replacement unit based on SRAM with battery that had significantly more memory, and it had, actually we could build it. And it actually worked for many years until this computer was replaced at some point. In the Army, as Dov said, we met actually.
How did we meet in the Army, in the Navy? Let me see if you remember.
Yeah, so actually I don't remember the actual meeting, so you'll remind me. But what I do remember is that we didn't serve in the same departments. We served in different departments. And I was also always hearing about this Dubi, right?
That's my nickname.
That's his nickname in Hebrew. That is interested in new PCs and new technologies, and he's always bringing new technologies to the Army. And in a way, I was the same in my department, so I was looking for him. And then when I found him, I think that we found each other and found many joint interests. I don't think that we did anything together in the Army, right? We just became friends.
I'll let me give you the story. Okay, so the story is that when I joined the Navy a couple of years after I was there already, and I was an officer. I left as I think Seran, the captain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and at some time they gave me the job to pick the right people among the new and the same engineers. How do you call it?
Technicians.
Technicians, yeah, it's somewhere between technician and engineer Aryeh finished actually he learned one more year after his high school to become this kind of, it's a level between technician and engineer. So they gave me the job to screen those people. And that's the first time we met. And I do remember I got amazing people from Aryeh. It's a very good school, maybe one of the best schools these days in Israel. And I picked him, and I picked Alex, and I picked another guy. And then what happened is that in generally, the technical systems were divided among, in a way, it's microprocessors and mini computers. So I was taking to the mini computers, but I did remember him and the other guy as brilliant guys. So whenever we had a chance, we chat, we talked here and there, yeah. We didn't really work together, but it was clear to me that, when this guy is going to leave the Navy, I want to work with him. And that's what actually happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a way. Yeah.
So, Aryeh, did you go to the university afterwards at all, or you go directly into work?
Well, as Dov said, he finished the army a few years before me, and he started this early company, Dikla, and we kept in contact. And at some point, they had this project for Tadiran to do those when we were still in the army, and he came and asked us for help there, and we helped in the evening to build this project. That continued for many other follow-on projects that we did. And when I finished the army, I think Dikla got into some issues that some of the partners didn't wanted to continue. And I decided that when I finished the army, I want to go to the Technion. And Dov came to me and told me, why do you need to go to the Technion? You know everything.
Join me, come on.
Join me.
You're amazing.
And my answer was, well, first, I want to go to the Technion, and second, I want to build my own company.
I do remember it. Yeah.
And we had some exchange around this, and Dov, in his smart way, which was like, I think I saw again and again through the years of our partnership, he told me, okay, if you want to go to Technion, okay, go to the Technion, but still you can join.
Hey, Technion is easy. You can be there 2 days a week, and that's good enough.
Yeah. And if you want to build your company, it's better to do it with partners, and there is an opportunity. My partners just left. Join as my partner.
Yep.
And then we joined together. And actually, in the first years, it was, I think, 1986 or 1985, something like that. In the first year, we didn't do Flash. We tried to invent our own products, right? And we had like many ideas that some of them became really great ideas by other companies.
It wasn't clear to me, you never actually raised any venture investment money. You did everything bootstrapped, is that right?
Yeah, actually, let me just to clarify the history here, that's important. When I left the Navy, I joined other two guys that left even before me. One is Menachem Lasser that actually works with me until today, on and off. He didn't continue with me, but he came back later to MSystems. And the late guy, amazing guy, again, great friend until he unfortunately died, called Ronnie Kornitz. And both Ronnie and Menachem and myself, we didn't raise money. There was no way to raise money. We had to do projects for others. So the idea was, we'll do our own products during the day, and we had all kinds of ideas, and we'll do projects, sorry, the opposite. We'll do projects, work for others as subcontractors during the day, and we'll do our own products at night. The only problem is that you need to sleep sometime, and we didn't take it into consideration. So this was very, very tough. And now to do products for the small Israeli market didn't make any sense. So that's the reason that I took a decision that I will go to the States and I'll try to understand what is the meaning of America, selling in America, distribution, whatever it is. I was really like any sort of management experience, management and business experience. Now, one thing more, what happened after with Menachem, so Menachem and Roni actually left, and both of them are amazing people. Just we didn't have enough money to share between us. Actually, I didn't have enough money after that, and they had children, or they just got married, and they wanted to feel more secured. I couldn't give them the security that they required. Aryeh, hey, he went to Technion. He had money from his parents, whatever. He could live even without security. Actually, offered both Aryeh and Alex to join, and Alex said, "Can we discuss the salary?" I said, "Salary, hey, every month we look at how much money we have, and we divide between us. I don't know what's going to be the salary. There's no defined salary." So that's a real story. So the first time we met actually was when I was interviewing you.
Yeah.
Did you remember it?
I didn't. I remember. Never mind.
Okay.
When the two of you became partners, then is that when you changed the name, or tell me what the focus was at that time?
So I'm going to New York, and my name is the name of my company is Moran Systems. And I go to visit my actually uncle and aunt in Long Island. And I tell them about my great companies. We had amazing ideas. I'll tell you about one of them soon. And then after some time, they say, "Wow, that's amazing. Sounds great. What's the name of the company?" I said, "It's Moran Systems." I say, "What? You said Moran Systems? It's not a good name. It's not a good name." Hey, I already have business cards and and envelopes printed with Moran Systems. So I took a Tipex, and I had a meeting with somebody. So I took a Tipex and erased the ORAN, and that's the new name, MSystems. By the way, it took us some time to change the name officially because there was other company called M something, whatever. We succeed to get the name finally, but that's the story of the name. So this doesn't relate to our working together, but we actually refer to the name at 1989. This is actually the official date of establishing the company as MSystems. Until 1989, until January 1st, 1989, MSystems was not a company. It was everybody worked on my account. So I would pay my electricity at home, I would pay, and pay the employees the salaries from the same account. You can ask me why, because I went to my friend, a CPA, and I said, I want to establish a company. He said, you have two ways, two directions. One is to open a company, official or limited company, or you can do it on your own account. I said, what's the difference? He said, the first one would cost you 5,000 shekels, and the second one will cost you 2,000 shekels. So I go with the second opinion, the second approach, of course. Why should I waste the money? So I just didn't open a company until January 1st, 1989. One more thing to complete the story. You may ask yourself, how come Aryeh, while he was at the Navy, was working for others, for me, in the evenings? I was doing it as well, because in the Navy, we actually were more developing, not ourselves, but there were other companies working for us. We were more monitoring or being project managers and do some programming here and there. But I wanted to work on PC. And PC came to the world, it was wow. And so I was working very hard at the Navy, probably every day from 8 o'clock till 6, 7. At 7 o'clock, I would take off my army's shirt, change shirt, and go and work as subcontractors to do programming on Apple computers, on PCs, on a variety of projects, just because I wanted to understand this media of PC. Did a lot of software and had many, many ideas. And actually, the establishment of MSystems, that's the story of MSystems. I had an amazing idea of doing a keyboard for children where the name was Educate. Educate stands for education, and the shape of it was the shape of a cat. So you could actually press buttons Buttons could be the mustache, the legs, the ear, the tail of the, and in addition to it, remember that?
Oh, I forgot.
Educate. Hey, this was one of your most amazing ideas, Aryeh.
Really? Okay.
You did a project in the Technion of recognizing 4 words. You can talk to the computer and it would understand up, down, right, left.
Possible.
You do. So anyway, he had this idea, which I thought it's an amazing idea. Maybe he didn't think so, but I thought and when I went to the States, I was trying to raise for that money because when I came to the States, people told me that, hey, you can raise money from people. They give you real money, not for jobs, but for equity in a company. So I went to raise money, and there was a guy which was highly interested in this project in Manhattan. I lived in Long Island. And then Aryeh and all the guys were working, of course, in Ramat Gan or Tel Aviv. So I went to the guy 2-3 times, and he said, hey, that sounds to be like a great idea. And I had a whole idea of how do we sell software to work with that. And people buy the hardware once, and then we can continue to sell them software with variety of games, and you can change it from up, down, right, left to fast, slow, jump. So all the operation will be by verbal for children. And he said, listen, sounds something great. I want to invest. But before I invest, can you bring me a business plan? And guys, I know it sounds stupid, and it was really stupid. And I had no clue what is a business plan. Really. So my answer to him was, of course, no problems. I will give you a business plan within 2 weeks. Is that okay? He said, fine, wonderful. Come to me once again, and I'll look at the business plan, I'll evaluate, and I'll give you money for this company. And then before that, I told Miltop, the CEO of Miltop, about our RAM disk. And his response was, it's great, but battery is bad. That's a story. Now, I came back to my office at Miltop, and I tried to work on this business plan, asking people, what is it? Can you show me a sample? No internet these days. You can't see samples. There's no. I even signed a meeting with somebody that I was told years ago, he wrote a business plan. We have to go to him, talk to him. And meanwhile, I'll see in the papers, Electronic Engineering Times. This is September 1988. September 1988, Electronic Engineering Times are publishing an article about new component, flash memory from Intel, non-volatile. You write, you turn off the power, and the data will be kept there. So I'm very happy. I meet the CEO of Miltop, which I became a very good friend of him. And I tell him, hey, Dick, his name was Richard Pandolfi, amazing guy. I said, Richard, or Dick, take a look. There is a new memory, like static RAM, but you can write to it, and when you turn off the power, data is there. It's non-volatile. We can make this solid-state RAM disk without a battery. He said, really, can you do that? I said, of course. He said, okay, you know what, guys, you do that. We will be very happy to sell it for you as Miltop. So go ahead, do it. This is so I listened to him. I wrote to Aryeh. Aryeh said, yeah, today maybe I said we can do it. And I still running and doing my educate, which was really exciting. I had a daughter, 1 year old these days. And I really wanted to do for her education, games, funny, PC. That's great. So I come back from this gentleman in Manhattan, and the second or third day, I'm trying to find my way, and this Richard Pandolfi comes to me when I'm eating my French fries at the dining room, and he just put himself in front of me, saying, "Dov, what happened to what's going on with your project? The non-volatile project. I don't remember the no need on battery project." I said, and I was busy with my French fries. I said, with my mouth full of salad and French fries, said, "Oh, I'm just working on a business plan for that." He said, "Wow, how much money do you want to raise?" Did I want to do solid-state drive? The answer is no. I hated anything related to military. I did 8.5 years of military stuff. And I said, I'm not going to do, and then Tadiran with the militarized PC. I want to do PC, games, education, fun. So I said, I'll give him such a big number that he said, okay, forget about it. And I really forced myself to give him a very, very large number this day, large in my, in my understanding these days. How much money? Can you guess? Douglas, Brian? Give me a number. How much did they tell him?
$1 million. $1 million.
$300,000. $300,000. He said, no. This is I give you half as an equity and half as a loan, which you'll have to bring me as a product. I said, okay. He said, okay, finish your French fries. Come to my office. I'll give you a check. He wanted to give us a check. This is September, and I have a problem. He needs to give a check to a company. There is no company. So I had to open a company. This, January 1st, 1989. This is the official date of the company establishment, actually. That's the story of MSystems. Guy, I'm sorry to disappoint you because you probably saw that there is a huge of smartness and cleverness, and we saw the market and the strategy, and we had a wonderful vision. We did have many of those, but not at the beginning. We began as practically a couple of immature guys, no idea what they are doing. By the way, we added two more partners later on, one which was, I was in the States, so there was one guy running the company, Amir Friedman, and 3 years later, we added another very smart guy called Amir Ban, which actually was our first, the VP of software of the company. But this is the story, and I'm sorry it's not a hilarious story, and everything was, we were smart, we were whatever. No, we weren't.
I think it's a wonderful story.
Yeah, I do too. And Dov, if I could ask you a couple questions now, please. Just to back up just a little bit. First of all, I think that is a great story. You belittle it, but I think it's for the reason that you are attempting to belittle it, it makes it a really great story, frankly. But anyway, to catch up on a couple of details, is it my correct interpretation of looking at the Moran Systems as not being a good name because Moran is similar to the word moron? Is that?
Yeah, that's the point, yes.
Yes, I thought so. Because I hadn't flashed on it until she said that, and I said, oh, it had to be the fact that the American word moron, you don't want to have a name like that. Okay, good. Also, just for clarity, I know that both of you are at the offices of your company, Dov Grove Ventures. Could you let us know what town in Israel you're actually located at right now?
Yes, this is Tel Aviv. We are now in Tel Aviv.
Okay, you're in Tel Aviv, Israel. Great, just wanted to clear that up. Also, you had mentioned earlier about the rugged PC that you folks created when you were in either the Army or the Navy. I think it was the Army. And
Navy.
The Navy, okay. Then were you aware of Grid Systems, which started in 1979 and was also making rugged computers for the military in the United States?
Which one?
Grid, G-R-I-D Systems.
Yes. Yeah, of course we knew Grid, of course. Yeah, there was Grid in the States. There was another company, Conton, in Germany that did the military computers. But of course, ours was much better. And we were PC from the first day because we said, hey, everything is PC. We knew, by the way, we mostly Aryeh, understood the architecture of the PC really from the BIOS of the software up to any component within the PC. So we could actually do something which emulated the PC, which could be constructed from other components and things like that.
Yeah. Well, were you actually familiar with the Grid Systems? I mean, was it truly superior? I mean, based on your first knowledge, or what are you basing that on?
I don't remember. We thought that that we have superior solution, but everybody thinks so. But I can tell you something which is I think it's amazing. When Tadiran came to us to do the smaller version, they said, actually, we need a small handheld terminal. This is what the Marines wanted. But it has to be something that you can hold in your hand. It cannot be a real PC. It should be terminal for communication. And by the way, they said, we are going on a bid, and we have 4 months from now to present the product. And if we can't do it in 4 months, there's no project because we are late. We have to show real working project. So I remember meeting Aryeh and say, hey, can we do this project building a full terminal with software, with messaging, sending messages, even getting approvals on the messaging, with a list of contacts. Can we do all of it in 4 months? And Aryeh said, we can do it if we do it on a PC, because we can develop the PC, the software in parallel. And if we make this terminal actually as a handheld PC, we can just make it work. By the way, we had many, many tools to develop software quite fast. So we practically developed a handheld PC back in 1987. This was the first handheld PC in the market with a full system of communication, emails, approvals.
With all applications.
All the application. In an effort of 4 months. By the way, can you guess how much money we got from it, from Tadiran? How much money do you think we got?
For the development project?
What project?
$75,000.
You're good. You're fucking good. The truth, we charged $32,000, and the idea was that we will get $16,000 for the project, and if we succeed to bring it exactly in 4 months, we get a bonus of $16,000. And yeah, we worked very much. We got the whole $30,000 for making the first handheld PC terminal. We were so stupid that we didn't think that we can take this market to commercial, that there will be other people that will be interested for nothing. It didn't occur in our mind. I know it sounds to you, hey, these guys were really stupid, and you are correct, we were. Business-wise, we had no clue about our capabilities, intentions, ideas, and how good they are. We wanted to survive practically.
Now, was this actually an IBM PC compatible computer, or just a personal computer of your own design?
No. This was a PC compatible terminal. Clearly, small screen, not a full screen. Keys that you could hit the keys with communication capabilities. You could connect it through radio. You could connect it through two-wire. Remember? Mm-hmm.
So you could boot MS-DOS on that computer?
Right.
Yeah, of course, MS-DOS.
It was running
Right.
MS.
Now, here's another question, because with the grid computers, you could throw them out of a helicopter and they would survive.
That's the point. Yeah. It went to the Marines. Yeah.
So you could actually throw them out of a helicopter?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Ah, okay, well, that's kind of the test that they had. Okay. Very good. So did you have something you wanted to enter in there, Doug?
Yeah, so this was the first product that MSystems developed, is that correct?
It actually was pre the MSystems day, right?
This was the pre-MSystems. So when MSystems was established, the idea is that we got this project from a Miltop. A Miltop said, we want you to develop for us. We will sell it, of course, as your distributor. Solid-state drives. Has to be actually a militarized tape that they want us to emulate using Flash.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I think we're a little bit mixed up. So 1987, you were working with the Navy developing this compatible, IBM compatible computer.
Yeah.
Now you switched to what led up to the formation of MSystems. So I think we just...
That's right. So until 1986, till January 1989, I'm doing project. We are doing project. We are developing this handheld terminal. End of 1987, I fly to New York. I meet Miltop. A year later, the CEO of Miltop says, take money, $300,000. Make us bring to us this product you're talking about of the solid state drives with initially I was talking about RAM with battery, and then flash memory based product. This was again end of 1988, while the company practically was established on the papers officially at January 1st, 1989. That's it.
So
is there anything you want? Did you want to catch up? Go ahead, Doug.
When did you develop this portable PC, this handheld PC?
1987, probably.
1987. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we developed actually a PC, a ruggedized PC, a militarized PC in
86.
I think before even.
85, 86.
85.
85, I just left the Navy.
Yeah.
85, yeah.
I think it was like in parallel to, if you remember the time Compaq started building PC-compatible devices.
Yes, right. Yes.
IBM actually published their reference book for the PC, which included the circuitry and everything. And companies started copying it, but when trying to do military computers with it, you couldn't use standard screens. So we actually took a plasma screen and emulated the way that the screens worked. And we did the same for hard disks, initially with static RAM, and then with E-square static RAM with battery, and then with E-square PROM that were at the time. Yeah. So we had a lot of projects around it at the time.
Did you write your own BIOS code? Did you write your own BIOS code?
We actually rewrote
BIOS.
We rewrote a full
Guys,
BIOS.
All of it is effort of less than 10 people with unfunded company. At some time, I had a loan. I paid the salaries for my own account, as I told you. And clearly, I wasn't rich. I didn't have money. So the bank gave me loans. And lucky for me, the bank, I had to put something against the loan, and I put my apartment. And at some time, the size of the loan was several times larger than the value of my apartment. I was living in an apartment, not in a house. And luckily, no one at the bank paid attention to that, so we could actually survive until we got this money from Miltop. Yeah. But this was the story.
So once you had completed, you had the non-volatile drive, you had the portable PC, or the handheld PC. What was the next major development or product?
So the handheld was with this earlier entity, and now we switched gears to MSystems with
MSystems. Yeah. January 1st, 1989. Yeah.
So at that time, we had some commitment to Miltop. And the initial product that they wanted was like a tape emulation type of SSD, an SSD that will replace tape devices that they had many customers in the U.S. Army for. And we told them, we will do that, but we feel that there is an advantage doing something similar with SCSI interface, because this will give us a broader market, and with a serial interface that they also had some need for that. So that's was our initial commitment to them.
3 projects.
3 projects, and we had this $300,000 that Dov talked about. By the way, a few years after, I read that SanDisk raised in their initial days $50 million. 50 million, yeah.
Oh, 25, I think.
$25 million, okay.
Yeah.
So the 25 was after.
So the fact that it was initially a tape emulation, it actually made it much, much simpler than a disk emulation, because you could write serially.
That's right.
Yes or no?
About the wear out of the flash.
That's right.
You're right.
So that's actually a great start, because that allowed you to get that working before you entered into the complexities of emulating a disk drive.
That's right. That's right. And that's
right. But we developed all these 3 projects actually in parallel.
Yeah.
We did all the tape, and then we were struggling with all these 3 at the same time.
Yeah, but I think that Brian is right in the regard that when we arrived to delivering the SCSI drive, we saw that our algorithms are not perfect, are not optimal. And we tried to find a solution, and we couldn't find a solution, actually. And at that point, Dov told me that he has this friend from the Technion, this genius friend, that has grades of A+, and the only this really was a genius, and we should bring him. And I said okay, and we brought him. And actually, Amir was the one that came up with the TrueFFS solution, which eventually became to the FTL, that is the basis of flash management until today.
Until today, funnily. Yeah. I must tell you a story. So we are talking about Intel components, and we are developing our hard disk based on or disk emulation based on flash from Intel. And there is a story that Eli Harari, which I love and adore, and he's an amazing person, an amazing friend. Eli these days established his company, and Eli came from Silicon. As a Silicon guy, he said, I want to develop the flash. And yeah, I'll take flash components and I'll make out of them a full hard disk. And Eli, because he knew how to make flash, we didn't know how to make flash. Eli said, I am going to make a hard disk where every sector of a disk works on sectors. So I'll make a flash where every block will be one sector. Now, sectors is small, 512 bytes. So the meaning is having very, very small blocks, many of them. Now, clearly, every block is overhead. You go there, you create, you need a huge extra of hardware, and there are many, many other issues related to that. And the funny story of Eli is that about this time, he's negotiating, getting a nice check from Sequoia, and Intel comes with the announcement of we have flash. So Eli goes to a meeting at Sequoia, and Sequoia are telling him, hey, why do you have to develop flash? There is flash from Intel. But his heart is with the Silicon, with developing the flash. The system is something else. He wants to develop flash memory. So he tells them, listen, it's impossible to make a hard drive emulation using the regular Intel flash. And they say, go and check it. He goes home, he writes a document of 20 pages, goes back to Sequoia, and in this document that he presents to them, he says, it is impossible to make a solid-state drive using Intel flash. Very, very good arguments, whatever, and they are convinced. He convinced them. He's an amazing convincer, Eli, and they give him a check. And he begins his company. And his story, a few months later, he hears about these stupid guys from Israel that are actually buying regular flash component from Intel and create from them flash memory. Solid-state drive. Flash solid-state drive. So Eli's story was, when I learned about you and what you're doing, I was very concerned that my board, my investors, would come to me with this paper that I proved that it's impossible and say, hey, what's that? What this company is doing? He said, luckily, you were so quiet. No one heard about you for several years. And when they heard about you, this was already too late, yeah? And we were on our way and we did fine. But yeah, we came with the idea. We used the regular flash to do solid-state drives. And we were very, very quiet and very, very, we truly were very bad in publishing, in marketing, raising money, whatever. That's the story.
So
I think a key differentiator that we should bring up indeed between what Intel had and what Eli Harari was developing at SanDisk was the fact that he put metadata on board his flash memory. And that metadata would allow for the management of the flash to know how many times it's been erased and to allow the remapping so that when the flash wears out, it's easy based on the onboard metadata to manage it. What you did is...
I have a big smile on my face. Okay.
Yeah. What you did is you were aware of indeed the shortcomings of the Intel flash because it was basically meant to be a code storage medium.
Right. Yeah.
We were so embedded with the idea of the EEPROM that had been so successful with Dov Froman's invention of 1971 that they had this mindset of code storage. But Eli had the mindset of data storage like you did. But he was able to get the money to develop new flash to perform that most easily. What you had to do was you had to write a quote-unquote kludge to allow the Intel flash to be able to do the same functionality by way of your flash file system, which was additional software to manage the flash.
Well, interestingly enough, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but Intel Flash was really efficient in the cell size because it had large blocks and it didn't have a lot of overhead. And SanDisk or Eli, when they developed their flash, they tried to build this to very small blocks and to actually emulate the way that hard disk worked.
Physical.
The physical structure of a hard disk. So they had an area for metadata the same way that hard disk had, right? And this made their flash less efficient. And they thought that Intel Flash couldn't be made to work as an SSD. And I think that the TrueFFS proved differently. Yeah. And that was, the algorithms that Amir Ban developed.
Right, so you're kind of the happy medium between the two. You're able to take advantage of the efficiency of the large block size with the additional overhead of the software to manage it. But he had to end up re-architecting his system to increase the block size for an efficiency at a later time.
And at some time he did very, very smart thing. He
moved to NAND.
He moved to Toshiba component, which, by the way, it's part of his greatness. And really I'm talking about greatness because he put so much money into develop his own flash, no flash. And, he did something which very, very few people that I know would do. He said, okay, there is a good solution from Toshiba. I'll throw away my development, or part of it, the flash part of it, and I'll move to actually partnership with Toshiba to use the Toshiba NAND component and make out of them a flash. By the way, this was several years after we did this move from no flash of Intel into the NAND flash of Toshiba Samsung. I still accuse myself. I do remember one time I went to California and I met Eli, and he took me in his car to meet somewhere, and on the way he asked, "Hey, Dov, how are you doing?" And I said, "Hey, we're doing great. We use actually this component from Toshiba, unbelievable, 50 times faster than Intel in write, maybe a bit slower in read, but doesn't matter. It's still very, very fast in read." And he said, "Yeah, but how is it working with Toshiba?" I said, "Great, wonderful guys. I really love the guys." And I accuse myself as one of the guys that really pushed him to move into Toshiba. I'm joking, yeah. But the Eli did this shift from his own no flash into NAND. We just didn't have the choice. We could not build our own flash. We didn't have the money. We didn't have the knowledge to do that.
Yeah.
And by the way, one more thing. If you look at the names of the companies, SanDisk comes from sand, silicon, components. We were the MSystems. We were the systems guys. We truly understood very, very well the systems. Whether this is the PC at the first days of MSystems dealing with disk emulations, or later on when we talk about mobile with our mobile disk on chip, which created a huge success at this market. So we were the system guys, and SanDisk were more at the silicon side.
So given these two paths to a similar solution, is it the case that either one could replace the other, or one was strong in one area and the other was strong in the other area?
PCMCIA cards, guys, hey, that's a PCMCIA card. This one has the true FFS on it, because we actually at some time moved to do PCMCIA cards. Now there is another story related to flash and standards, and when we came with true FFS. Why is it true FFS? FFS stands for Flash File System. Now practically we didn't do Flash File System. We did a disk emulation, not at the file level, but at the sector level. But in these days, Intel and Microsoft teamed together to bring software to enable the emulation. And they called the software FFS1, then came second generation, which was FFS2. And this was actually emulation at the file level. I'm not talking about sector or record, I'm talking file. You could actually write a file, erase a file. You could not open a file of contacts and just change the contact. You could erase the previous file and write a new one, but that's the level of emulation they've done, which we thought this is very, very bad. We did a true emulation of a hard disk at the sector level. So first we gave our software a name, which was terrible name, True FFS, means they have FFS, hey, we have a true one. Very stupid, I do admit as well. But clearly we had a much, much better solution compared to Intel Microsoft. And we began to promote actually what we offer, this new standard to the PC MCA committee. And one of the things which I think was done very well by us, I sent Aryeh to California for 1 year to establish our True FFS or FTL as the standard versus the flash file system. By the way, if we haven't done that, I do believe that the whole industry of flash emulation using flash as a disk or storage would be very different, because if Intel Microsoft solution would become a standard, this would be bad. It's like the 64 kilobytes of the PC that, if you remember, we suffered many, many years from the fact that those recognize only 64 kilobytes. Mm-hmm. So I went to California and he did I would say, miracle of, and can I say it? It's okay, it's a miracle of convincing the committee, the PCMCA committee, the IEEE committee or PCMCA committee, to actually not to adopt the Intel Microsoft solution, but adopt ours. Hey, we, the small guys, small company, non-funded company from Tel Aviv, fighting against Intel Microsoft, and we are winning. You have no idea how big was it. It's like some stupid company would come today with solution against Facebook and Google and win it. And because the Wintel, the Microsoft Intel combination was so strong these days, you can't imagine winning against it. We won, almost won, but then came the extra counter that SSDs had in their flash memory. What we have done in TrueFFS, we actually had a counter that every time we erase the block, we erase the counter. So we'll do wear leveling, doing that. And the night before, we had to actually get the support of the committee, the voting, to support our standard. SanDisk, which, by the way, it's not accusation. I do think that they have done what they had to do business-wise, and that's fine. They sent a letter to all the members of the committee stating that this algorithm, the TrueFFS, is infringing their patent on a counter. Now, it seems very, very strange. How can you file a patent on a counter? Hey, they didn't invent. No, they claim that they have a counter. And by the way, it never went to court. I think that if they would go to court, they may lose. But what happened in this suit to that is that the committee members said, we're not going to vote. Guys, you solved the problem between you. We went back to Sally and said, guys, it's a counter. Everybody knows about counter. Why do you think you have a patent on a counter? Because we think so. That's good enough for us. Until what we have done, we actually made a change in the algorithm, and instead of doing a counter, we did something related to randomizing stuff, so we'll get a wear leveling, maybe not optimized wear leveling, but good enough to actually pass, and we passed the standard.
Yeah.
But this took a year, and in this year, the PCMCA cards of SanDisk with the ID interface, ID.
Yeah. 88.
88, yeah, the same. Actually became very common. So they became the standard. And when we came and made this solution, full solution with the software, without controller, just memory. This is a solution with no CPU, no controller, just memory. The software is at the PC. This was too late. And SSDs became like a standard in this market. So they won this market of cards. And that's part of life. You win some.
So what years are we talking about here? You've identified some.
1994?
1993, 4.
Yeah, I think 1994, end of 93, maybe 1994. Maybe beginning of 95 even.
Yeah.
And by the way, there is something in business. You know, sometimes you lose something, you gain out of the loss. Because the fact we lost, so we lost the card race. We lost because SSDs did an amazing job establishing themselves as standard. And then they went into smaller versions. So they had PCMCIA cards, Type 3, and then they had the compact flash, and then they went to MMC together with Hitachi and Panasonic, I think. And then they went to SD together with, this was Panasonic and Toshiba. And then, of course, Mini SD and Micro SD and all the race. And we lost this race. We worked with Intel guys, reality, and yeah, I'll say it, if you ask for honesty, Intel was, these days, of course, was very full of themselves. They looked at us as, who are these guys, Initially, when we came with the idea of the solid-state drive based on flash, I do remember going to meet Intel guys, even Dov Moran. They say, guys, totally mistake. Forget about it. Our flash is code. It's not data. Forget. We have a solution for data we can't tell you about. Yeah. And then, PCMCIA cards, we were the partners because they had cards. We bought components for them. We built our own cards. The bastards, excuse me for the word, sold us the components for a higher price than the price of the PCMCIA cards. We said, how come? Said, that's another division and they buy in large quantities. So it was very difficult for us to team with Intel. And I think that Intel made a huge mistake, not really working with us, helping us. And yeah, at some time we had some closer cooperation when they tried to make the smaller cards. What was the name? Miniature card.
Yeah, miniature card.
Miniature card
or something like that.
Miniature card. That's for the official name. They call it. They only said, "Hey guys, you do software. You do amazing software. Let's work together." But even working together, then we clearly went to work together. This took us about 4 years to do that. It was too late. We lost the card business. Said, okay, we are not good in cards. Let's move ahead. Where can we go? We can do embedded. We have a solution that actually, for embedded, can be very, very good. And that's when
I could interrupt for a second here. You've covered a lot of ground, and I actually want to help answer the question that Doug posed a few minutes ago as to which was better, the Intel approach or the SanDisk approach. And I think actually you came up with a really good example of that difference and how the SanDisk approach ended up being superior. And that was by virtue of the fact that you had developed this software that would allow the PCMCIA card to operate, but it required software to be loaded in the host computer to make it work. But what SanDisk did is they developed their version that was able to use this metadata embedded in the flash so that they could plug their card in without needing an extra driver in the host. So I think that bottom line, showing the superiority of the SanDisk approach and what it took to make the Intel approach work. But we also covered a whole lot of ground there. So I think what it came down to is PCMCIA cards that are disk emulation devices, the ones that were not, I guess, officially sanctioned by the PCMCIA organization. Maybe you can correct me on this, but they didn't require extra software, so they became at least the de facto standard because you could just plug them in and they'd work.
Well, our solution actually, because many of the systems had their own software, it wasn't like standard PC that you just buy at the store. The software issue wasn't such a big issue. It was, but every customer that we had, and we had many customers at the time, could install our software because it was systems that they were selling, and they in any way installed their software inside. It wasn't like standard general purpose devices. And the whole intention of the PCMSA committee was to standardize on it, and then to have the true FFS driver or the FFS driver shipped together with the Microsoft operating system. And when Microsoft and Intel actually lost to us in the standard battle, then they came to us and said, okay, let's do a partnership and let's work together with you. And then our partnership started, and we did, I think it was a few years of partnership together with Intel. But as Dov said, I think that Intel was not fully committed to this partnership.
Yeah.
And I think that this caused both Intel and us to lose the first wave of cards in the market. I think the main design there was like for the camera of the future, and I think that SanDisk won Kodak and Canon, I think it was. And when they won Kodak and Canon, we came back and we said, okay, we have revenues, but we will not succeed in cards. We had Maxtor as a partner to distribute our cards and so on, but it wasn't enough.
Yep.
And then we decided to focus on the embedded market. That was very different. It was a smaller market, less flashy in a way, but it was really a good market. And this is the market that took us to the next step.
Absolutely.
In a way.
And tell me about the products and the applications that you describe in the embedded market. What exactly are you referring to?
Well, at the time, Dov had a meeting, I think, with the customer, and he came back with the idea because this customer didn't have a PCMSA slot, but they did have the BIOS in their system. It was what's the name of the company? Ampere or something like this?
Ampere,
yeah. Right.
Ampere, yes.
Ampere, that's right.
Great guys, yeah.
And he came and he said, what if we'll do like an SSD that will replace the BIOS, will be both the BIOS and the SSD. And we said, yeah, we can do that. That's a great idea. And said, yeah, and we can call this the discount chip.
I always, when somebody came in, he asked me, can you do it? I said, of course we can do it. You know, this was, and then I went to Aryeh because I knew Aryeh can do everything, yes? This was very simple. I said, yes, we can do it. Discount chip.
And you say it contained the BIOS and data storage?
Yeah,
yeah,
the same chip.
Right, and of course, when you're in an embedded environment, you have the luxury of being able to define everything you need.
Exactly.
So integrate capabilities that you needed right into the BIOS of an embedded system. And that would allow everybody else who is developing on top of that platform to not worry about other drivers or other things that, they could be more easily integrated. So it's interesting to go back to the Miltope days because that was a military application. And so could you describe how much the military applications helped you over the years?
Well, initially we began doing this SCSI hard disk because that's what the customer, the partner, wanted us to do. Clearly, we learned a lot by doing the devices. We even had a great project with, by the way, the first product we sold was to submarines, cartridges of, how much was it?
Remember? 640 bytes, like...
how much? 640 kilobytes, yeah.
Right, yes.
640 kilobytes, and it was, wow, amazing project. And we had later on a project, a military project of supplying SCSI's hard drives to a project for helicopters.
Yeah.
Remember? What was the name? But yeah, we learned. This was our way to learn. We did all this project. We went deeply into the flash, the capabilities, what can be done system-wise, and practically played many games, and clearly understood whatever we had to understand, until one day we got to see there was an announcement of the NAND flash by Samsung and Toshiba, and this was a breakthrough. We tested these components. They were, wow, so much faster, so more density. And by the way, this was from people who wanted to sell, and not by people making us a favor if they allocate for us 10,000 components, which was the Intel treatment these days. By the way, if you want to hear one of the great stories about how the history could be changed, Shall I tell you the history of Flash?
Yes.
I think it's the biggest. I think it's the biggest story of Flash ever, and I take the blame of for this for not to happen. So the story is that Samsung, actually Toshiba was the one who invented Flash and Flash in general, and they were working on NAND Flash, and Samsung actually did a license from them, and came to the market, and what happened is that they went to the States, and there was a player in the States, SanDisk, and SanDisk claimed that Samsung with their components are infringing their patent.
What year was this now?
I'm talking 1995. 1995. Yeah, 1985. I know. Okay. By the way, you should ask yourself which kind of patents, because remember, SanDisk is developing no flash, okay? Controller in the, by the way, we didn't have controller here. Only flash, software is controlling everything. SanDisk, it's a no flash, very complex, as NOI is, small blocks, and Samsung comes with NAND, and SanDisk claims what they claim, and the ITC in the States actually is ruling against Samsung and telling Samsung that they cannot actually sell their components in the States. Now, at these days, Toshiba was still not active yet selling. I tried to go to Toshiba, too early for them. We converted our products to NAND from Samsung. And I built very good relations with Samsung. And one day they tell us, guys, we can't sell you anymore the flash because you cannot sell anything in the States based on our NAND flash. We are not allowed to sell in the States. You're not allowed as well. Hey, we just moved all our product line, the disk chip and some others, PCFFD. Yeah. We had a board sitting on a PC that functioned like a hard disk based on flash. We moved everything to NAND. We are very eager to get into the market, amazing performance, everything's great. I go to Korea to meet Samsung. Now, if you remember, in 1995, Samsung went to a very, very severe business issue. They almost went bankruptcy. Go back to the days of 1995, Samsung, as a whole company, goes to Samsung Electronics, goes almost to bankruptcy. And I go to meet the guys there, and I say, guys, what can I do? They say, listen, there is Toshiba, but they're not selling, and they won't be able to sell as well. I said, maybe you can sell us components. We'll put them with no name, sell us. He said, no, this is cheating. We're not cheating. Of course, we are not cheating. They are not cheating. We can't do that. So then I had an idea. These days, Intel and SanDisk had cross-license. That's the reason that SanDisk never sued Intel, or vice versa. So I said, listen, I have an idea. Your parts are much, much better than the Intel NOR flash. How about Intel buys the flash division of Samsung, and then they don't have any restriction because they have cross-license with SanDisk. So then they can sell NAND flash easily in the States, anywhere. They said it's a good idea. I said, okay, I know the guy running Intel flash, Bill Howe, and I can talk to him. They said, okay. I said, in order to go and talk to him, I need to hear how much would you like to charge for that? And they said, you have time. Anyway, wait for us. We'll go to a discussion. We'll come back to you with a vague number of selling the flash division, Samsung flash division, all of it, yes, all business. Sell it to Intel. I wait a few hours. They came back to me. Hey, Brian, you are great in guessing numbers. How much money did they want for the NAND flash?
Oh,
No idea.
40 million?
No, this was too low.
No, 550 million.
200 billions. This was the number. Okay, I said, guys, next week I'm going to the States. I'll ask to meet. I'm going to ask to meet Bill Howe. I'll ask for a meeting, and I went to the States. I went to meet Bill Howe. By the way, he's a very nice person, but it was maybe the culture of Intel these days, and not as Bill for per se. But I went to meet him, and I did a terrible job because I seen that if I would know then what I know today, I would prepare him ahead of time. I would make presentation. I would come with data that shows that the NAND from Samsung is so much better than the NOR flash. But I came very, very immature. This was 1995. And I went to meet him. And I told him, listen, I have this opportunity. And it's an amazing opportunity for Intel. And he said, hey, why do you think it's so good? I said, hey, performance 50 times faster in write. He said, no. Listen, most of the times flash is read, is not written. So what really matters is the read speed, and we are faster by 10%. I said, hey, the price much lower than your price per megabyte. He said, hey, you don't understand. Price is something we dictate. We are Intel. And if we want to lower the price, the next time we take it on geometry. To lower geometry, our price is going to be lower or worst case equal to their price. That's not an issue. By the way, what he forgot is that when he takes it to the next geometry generation of a fab, then Samsung and Toshiba will do it as well. They always were in a very low price compared to it per megabyte. So I said what I said, and then he said, guy, go back to Israel. If you want a recommendation for me, go convert back all your product back to NOR flash and continue to do business buying the Intel amazing flash components, which of course, it didn't happen. I could change history. I was stupid enough not to do that, but clearly if you think today, what would happen if in 1995, Intel would buy the flash business from Samsung, the whole history of flash, mobile, many industries could be very, very different. Didn't happen.
Great story. Thank you very much.
So just to be clear, this came from an International Trade Commission exclusion order against.
Yeah, after less than a year, Samsung and the Sanis got into agreement. And Samsung actually paid Sanis a lot of money over the years as a license, and that resolved the whole issue.
And we could go back and ship.
Right, so that situation was only existed for about a year, you're saying?
Yeah, or even less than a year, yes.
Gotcha. And so what happened with your design for using the NAND flash? Did it just get delayed for your ability to sell?
It was delayed, yeah. This was delayed. Unfortunately, yes. It was very painful, but it was delayed. We continue to sell products with no flash, but finally they resolved it, and we could go to the market with our NAND-based solutions.
And how good was that NAND flash initially? Was it very reliable?
Amazing.
It was significantly better. Better. And you asked what did the Army, the Army militarized project gave us. I think that at the time it gave us the sense of the reliability that is needed from those components. And the only problem that NAND flash had at the time, it was less reliable on the device level than NOR component. And then, so this is where we got in, and with our technology, we solved the reliability problems of NAND, both in software and with the error detection and correction codes and some other technologies there. Yep. And we implemented, I think the first project was on a PCMC, was on a disk on chip.
Disk on chip, yeah. Disk on chip was the first one.
Yeah. So
the first one was, could you repeat that again?
Was the disk on chip.
Oh, the disk on chip.
The first product that we converted from NOR to NAND, we had already few generation of NOR with the disk on chip.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then at some point we converted to NAND, and it gave us huge advantages. It was significantly faster, significantly higher densities at a lower price than the NOR. So we just didn't look back. Once it worked in the first product, we converted all the other products at that point.
I remember seeing those devices at trade shows in the late 90s and into the 2000s. I remember seeing a booth for MSystems. No, actually, I think it was it Miltope?
Let's move on.
Were you selling those?
So what was the next, you talked about the disk on chip. Was the disk on key the next product, or was that similar time frame?
Yeah, no, disk on key came much later. Disk on key is an idea that came into my mind in 1998. And it took us too much time to file a patent. We filed the patents at April of 1994. Sorry, 1980, April of 1999. We brought the product to the market in 2000. So the idea was we have a disk on chip, which is the embedded solution. We have the disk on key, which is the pluggable solution. No cards. This was SanDisk.
And the disk on key, is that similar to the same as the USB product?
Yeah, USB. Yeah. We gave it the name disk on key. By the way, this is one of our first boxes. So you can see what we can read here, disk on key.
Right. A little out of focus there.
Okay, I'll try it later on. Anyway, this was the name we gave it in Israel. But in a very short time, we took a decision that selling it in a retail is not the right solution for us. And what we have done, we decided to be the brand behind the brands. That's the name. That's the strategy we adopted. We gave it a name. And actually, what happened in a very short time, we began to sell it to IBM, Dell, HP, Memorex, Verbatim, Fujifilm, IOData, Buffalo, even sometime Best Buy had their own brands, Squad Team, and many others. The idea was that when you came to the Best Buy store and stood in front of the shelf with the many USB flash drive, Sony, HP, Verbatim, you would pick a product. They were all from us. This was the issue. Yeah. Kingston, by the way, amazing partner, great guys. Love these guys. Davidson.
So to be clear, this was your device, but being rebranded by all these different companies. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we sell them the device that we built for them with their name. Mm-hmm. We made the design for them. We actually, one of the reasons that there is no name, and everybody calls it different name, some drive, memory drive, USB stick, USB flash drive, is because we try to let everybody have a differentiation, different packages, different structure, different sizes. For Kingston, for example, it always looked more rugged. It was more ruggedized. Kingston was selling a lot to industry. And therefore, if you want a name, you want to call it memory stick, memory drive, call it memory drive, that's fine. And so we are the guys to be blamed for the fact that there is no one single name for USB flash drive in the market. We call it generally as USB flash drive. That's a general name.
Yeah.
Now, SanDisk, of course, also has that product. Did you have a patent on it, or was there any restriction, or how did that happen, or what?
So until 2000 or something like that, the first 10 years of the company, mm-hmm. we were so stupid. We filed very few patents. We began to file patents. We understood the patents are very important. I think that until 2000, overall, we had less than 20 patents. From 2000 to 2006, in 6 years, we filed over 200 patents. Yeah. We had a very strong patent for the USB flash drive, which went through court. And by the way, how do you really measure the strength of a patent? Only in one place, in the court. So we went through a court, several trials, and we won in all of the courts, except one place. We lost one case of the USB flash drive in a court taking place in Singapore with a company in Singapore, doesn't matter the name, and they filed a patent 4 years after us. The patent talks about the need of a software in the computer, so with the software they can read or write the content. We said no software, it's a disk emulation. No one wants to see software, and they won in Singapore, but that's part of life. So worldwide, I'm defined as the inventor of the USB flash drive. In Singapore, guys, if you go to Singapore, don't say that Dov Moran is the inventor. They say, no. Mr. XYZ, he's the inventor. And they are correct, by the way, because officially at court, he won in Singapore. He's the inventor in Singapore. I took the rest of the world.
So did SanDisk and others have to license it from you? Is that what happened?
Well, clearly I spoke with Eli a lot about that. They didn't license from us, but Eli said, listen, we have so many patents that I am sure that if we go over your products, you infringe several of them. So let's play this game that I don't sue you, you don't sue us. We didn't sign any license agreement. I think that we didn't sign officially. Later on,
we didn't sign the license agreement, but we went on to do joint partnership.
Cross-license, yeah.
Yeah, on development, and around this we signed.
Yeah, sometimes we did even a joint development of something called, we tried to file for a new standard called U3 that would enable actually booting from the device and having specific applications U3. But before signing this agreement, practically, we never sued them, they never sue us.
Okay, before we move on to the next product, then, can you tell me, can you size the size of the company, MSystems? From the beginning of '89, you had a small investment until 2000. How large did the company grow? And
So we actually went public before SanDisk. We went public back in 1993. I'm holding this. This is the prospectus. Yeah, prospectus. I'll try to put it here. Wait, zoom.
Yeah, it just isn't focused on.
This is difficult. This is difficult.
It's focused on Aryeh.
You know prospectus, yeah. You know how to look prospectus in generally.
Yeah.
So we went public in 1993 and raised huge amount of money, $4 million. Guys, $4 million on a valuation of 11 pre-money.
And this was in the United States on NASDAQ?
Yeah,
or
in NASDAQ, yeah. Crazy? Yeah, that's what we have done. But we got money to survive. We got money that allows us to really go and develop and then raise money once again. This is 1996. We raised then, I think, $6 million, 12, and then raised money in 2000. And all these years, we grew up in the revenues. We grew from zero till 2000. Our revenues were $90 million. And then came 2001, boom. Everybody was in the boom. We got our boom as well, $45 million. But I think that by then, it took me a long time. But by then, we understood business. We understood how to raise money. We understood how to grow business. We understood B2B and B2C and B2B2C and offices worldwide. And we grew the business from revenues of $45 million in 2001. This is 2001. It dropped from 90 to 45. From $45 million to over $1 billion in the year 2006 when the company was acquired. If we would complete the full year of 2000 as a company, we were acquired before the end of the year, we were reaching, according to the numbers we saw at the end, the level of $1.08 billion. Who counts the bill, the 0.08? It's $1 billion plus 80 millions, yeah? Which is amazing growth, much higher actually than SanDisk these days.
And what was so tell us about the major drivers in that period, 2000 to 2006. I believe you entered the cell phone market?
Yeah, so this comes we had the discount chip, remember? Now,
Yep.
now at some time, Aryeh and me looked at the market requirements. Now, in 1999, 2000, everybody was talking about internet appliances. And I said that I came to Aryeh and said, Aryeh, I don't believe in this market. There is a lot of hype. And many are ordering, proto demos and in small quantities, and some customers don't pay us. I hate it. And I don't really believe that internet appliances is going to grow. We need to shift to mobile. And it wasn't easy, but I convinced Aryeh. And Aryeh, once he was convinced, said, okay, I'll take it upon myself. And he did an amazing job to actually find the first customer, because we said, hey, if we want to be there, we had to go with
Nokia. Mm-hmm.
Tell the story.
Mm-hmm. Well, before going to Nokia, I want to really tell a story that is still coming from the disk on key. The main two drivers that we had during this amazing growth that Dov told about was the disk on key and the mobile disk on chip, which was like our mobile product. But one of the stories that we had like in the early days, and I think that in every product we had similar stories, we went and we tried to sell the disk on key, the USB flash drive concept to the biggest PC vendors. And initially we had many hesitations, but some of them really liked the product, and some of them signed with us. The first one that signed was IBM, actually. We have a device from IBM about this, but the story that I remember is pitching to one of the largest vendors in this market about the disk on key, and seeing that he likes the product and he likes us, and he's going to sign with us. And I was like pitching and saying, and I was like getting away with myself and saying, and this is going to replace the floppy drive, right? Mm-hmm. And if you remember that period, the floppy drive was like in every PC, in every notebook. Mm-hmm. And in notebook, it was one of the biggest problems of notebooks on reliability, on size, power consumptions. The density was very limited. So for me, it was like an obvious statement. And it was like with the CEO of this company in the room, and he stood up and he came to me and tapped me in the shoulder. You have a great product and you're really nice people, but this will never replace the floppy disk drive. Yep. And then I think that Apple was the first one that replaced the floppy drive. Yep. And I think that 2 years after, this same company decided to remove floppy drives from all of their PCs. So it didn't take a long time for this to happen.
By the way, why, Doug, do you remember the name of the company who was the company in floppy drives?
Miniscribe?
No. Hey, I'm testing you now, guys.
What was it? Was it NEC?
TIAC. TEAC. TIAC were number one. Majority of the market was TIAC. Now, TIAC, TEAC, a Japanese company, not in nearby Tokyo somewhere. I tried to, actually, since we were the floppy killers, I tried to go and have some cooperation with them. And I did go, actually, to meet the guy who was the CEO of the company. And we sat about 3 hours, and everything they said went back to floppies. Okay, let's have a floppy with USB. I said, hey, it doesn't help. Let's have a USB, but there'll be connection to floppies. And after 2.5 hours, where we couldn't find anything that we can do together, I do remember it was all the evening. I went to the lobby with the CEO, and while we were waiting for the taxi to take us from there, very nice person, he looked at my eyes and said, actually, Mr. Moran-san, I'm supposed to hate you because my father established this company 70 years ago, and you are killing my company. And I said, I was shivering because, hey, I didn't come to kill anybody. I don't want to kill TIAC, and I do have amazing respect to these guys and to their technology and to their tradition. And I said, Mr. San, I truly have no intention, but you have to understand something. This is technology. And if you don't move forward with technology, you will find yourself with an obsolete product. And that's the situation. And we didn't keep relations, but I think that they recovered. They still exist, by the way. I checked not a long time ago. And I do hope that they are succeeding or will succeed finding their way.
So getting back to Nokia and to the mobile distant chip, as Dov said, we were focusing before on the internet devices market. After the embedded market that we took over and we actually led this market, but the embedded market was limited in size. It was like, I think that we reached a revenue level of about $50–60 million there with headwind of the bubble period at the time. And we said, okay, we need to go to a bigger market. And there was like the bubble then at the time, and internet devices looked like there's an extension of embedded devices. But when the bubble collapsed, we saw that there is no market in internet devices. And we looked at the flash market, and the mobile phones started to become a very big market for NOR flash, mainly for code execution. And we thought that it can be a great application for SSDs. We saw that mobile are starting to get cameras inside, music. We thought that it can get to videos and of course apps. And we thought that it can be like a huge market for SSDs. And the SSD market grew by markets. SanDisk took the camera market and it
amazing job.
Yeah, and it let them grow significantly. We lost it, and we thought, okay, this is like it's in infancy, and we can win this market. And we established the mobile division, and our guys tried to get to customers there, but it was really difficult for a company like us that had tens of millions of dollars of revenues to go to companies that are really in the, I don't remember the exact numbers, but many billions of dollars of revenue, and make them their products that they have to ship every quarter, dependent on an Israeli company that is so small. And then we looked, and I took upon myself to go to Nokia, which was like the largest player in this market. And it was a really long and difficult process. I think it took us more than a year to really convince them to move to us. And we had like really many challenges. There are similar stories, some senior managers telling us, why do you need hundreds of megabytes in a mobile phone, right? Yeah. Today you have 512 gigabytes and probably going to higher numbers in the coming years. But at the time, some really senior people were telling us, why do you need so much memory in a phone? And they had like those cost formulas, and they didn't believe that we can bring something that is lower cost than Intel. They actually believed more to Intel, of course, if we can understand this. But we succeeded to convince Nokia to choose us for the first product, and it required few significant innovation. One of them was a business innovation, where we allowed Toshiba and Samsung to also, where Samsung we didn't exactly allow. It was Toshiba, but Samsung we closed our eyes and later did a partnership, and they paid us for this. And I think that this was like the entrance of SSDs and NAND into mobile phones. And there was another very big fight that was between us and SanDisk, actually, and this was whether the flash need to be a card or embedded. SanDisk came with the MMC card and later with the SD card, and that they tried to push to mobile phones. The SD card was too big, so they came with the micro SD, and then in the early days there was really a big debate. Some companies had the slot and some companies had the embedded flash, and in time the companies that had the embedded flash grew more. And I think that this was the right approach. If you look at the future, at where we are now, I think that there is no mobile phone that is shipping with a slot for memory cards. All of them
shipping, but no one is putting any memory cards in.
Yeah, the main one, Apple, and there is no slot.
But one more thing which I think was very, very important that you didn't mention, so if I can complete here. one of the biggest advantages that we had in the disk on chip, actually, if you, Intel was selling NOR flash, and the claim was you need NOR flash because you need to boot the phone. Otherwise, from where will you boot the system? Mm-hmm. And we came with I believe, a very, very smart idea. By the way, very smart, which is not for me. This is Aryeh and his other guys, the other guys at MSystems, really very smart guys, that actually said we can boot from NAND. And how can we boot from NAND? We'll actually add into the flash a little static RAM. And when the system goes on, we'll put the ready signal down so it won't go, the CPU won't begin to boot. And then we'll copy very, very fast one block into this RAM. And then we'll release the ready signal. So then the system, the CPU will actually look at this RAM as this is a NOR flash or ROM or whatever, and we'll boot from it. And this was what enabled actually us to provide a component which could be at the same time the same component for the code and the data. You could eliminate NOR flash. I believe that we caused Intel with this solution a annual damage of many, many, many billions of dollars a year. Because if Intel would continue to sell NOR flash into the phone industry, it's 1 billion units a year, whatever number, multiplied by $5, $6, $8 per chip. And with what we have done actually, we showed that, hey, you can take NAND flash, disk on chip in this case, and practically do a boot from this component. Hey guys, I do feel Intel are very, very close friends. I have many, many friends at Intel then and now. And it's an amazing company, which I truly adore for what they've done. But I'm very proud of the fact that we actually enable every phone, even the one that you're holding until now in your hands, to have a better solution, eliminating excess of cost that is not really required, having much more flexibility, and many other benefits.
Right, so a key point we can make here is the fact that NAND flash does not allow execute in place while NOR flash does. So that was a key differentiator. So that was certainly Intel's argument for needing the NOR flash, but what you just described was pulling the first few sectors out of the NAND flash and executing in RAM is the key differentiator. I think an important thing to mention and put on the record here is I believe that the first Nokia phones that had your NAND flash in it was shipped in 2002. Is that accurate, time-wise?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Nokia 9000, no?
Yes, 9000 series. I think it was the...
This was the high end of Nokia phones that you could open actually like a small notebook.
Flip phone? Flip phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But indeed, 2002 was the year that you put your flash in there.
So it was this disk on chip application in the phone and your disk on key products that really drove your revenue from 45 million to $1 billion in that 2000-2006 timeframe. Is that correct?
Yeah,
that's right.
But what happened in the company these days, I did begin to understand much better how to run companies. What I've done, I divided the company into 4 divisions. So we had 4 divisions, and every couple of years I merged a division and I opened a new one. And there was always a change. There was what people used to say that the only constant thing at MSystems is the change. When the company was acquired, there were 4 divisions. One, dealing with the mobile market, mobile disk on chip. Second one, dealing with the USB flash drives. There was a third one, which was dealing actually with I believe, amazing idea that didn't really happen. But dealing with security, we said, hey, storage will require security. We opened actually a department that dealt with security, and these guys actually got into the idea that they can put flash into SIM card. And then using the SIM, this will be a secured flash. And practically, this will eliminate the usage, the need in cards whatsoever, and even at memory inside. So you can take the SIM card and move it from one phone to another, and then you move actually all the applications with you. Unfortunately, this didn't happen because SanDisk acquired the company before we got before the product was in the market. We did have agreement with a company called Gemalto, which is the leading company in SIM cards, but SanDisk was not interested to pursue it because the claim was, hey, this is against our memory card. They were right. We said this was a counter memory card of SanDisk, and they actually stopped this project that's actually died. There was a fourth division. Both of Aryeh and me were very high believers at solid-state drives. And we said, this is from the beginning, one day, solid-state drive will be there. Everything will be solid-state drive. Maybe, very high capacities, servers, whatever, but solid-state drives are going to take the market of notebooks and whatever. And this division, actually, when we were acquired, 2006, we weren't the largest supplier of solid-state drives in the market. We were the majority of the market suppliers of solid-state drives, selling to Dell, IBM, HP. They were buying only from us, solid-state drives. SanDisk was not a great believer of solid-state drive. I think that SanDisk began with solid-state drives, and they had their own bad experience of selling solid-state drives. And when the company was acquired, Eli told me, listen, I don't think it's going to be really a large business. And I said, Eli, this is it's not a large business. It's only about $100 million today, but this is going to grow. And I do understand why you buy a company and there is a lot of complexity in the merger and many activities and mobile, which they were not in mobile, we were in mobile. The whole issue of the solid-state drive at SanDisk was pushed down in a way that they didn't really pay enough attention to that. And basically, the combination of MSystems, SanDisk lost their leadership to other companies. Then when SanDisk tried to get back into the market of solid-state drives, it cost them fortune. And until now, I'm not sure that they do have a leadership position at this market, while it could be theirs.
So tell us about how the acquisition came about. How did the conversation start, and what were the driving forces in leading up to 2006?
So over the years, I think the first time Eli and me met was somewhere in 1993, around this time, when we tried to bring the PCMs before we went to the States. We used to meet from time to time. Every time I went to the States, most of the time when I went to the States, whenever he came to Israel, he used to come to Israel quite often. We always used to have, when he came to Israel, a place, Dan Hotel in Tel Aviv. We always ordered cheesecake because he liked cheesecake, their cheesecake, I like it. And from time to time, the issue of how about we acquire you came up from him, from Eli, which I said it before, I say it again, he's an amazing person. He's, until today, I see him as a great innovator, entrepreneur, and mensch. And Eli said, Dov, we are competing. How about merging? And I said, Eli, I think that I truly believe in the potential of our company, and we are not really competing head to head. If you understand, over the years, they went to cards, we went to embedded. They went to, micro SDs, we went to USB flash drive. It wasn't really head to head. We didn't hate each other. We were competing. I think the competition was, most of the time, quite fair. Is that a good definition, Aryeh? Yeah. They were larger. They used their power. They used the fact that they are in Silicon Valley. That's a fair treatment. and it's a fair business, by the way. And I said no one time after the other. In 2006, I took a decision to, I wasn't happy with the board. It's a long story, which I won't go into all of it. But Eli that met me a month before understood that I'm not happy. And one day he gave me a call and said, Dov, maybe that's the right time. And I said, okay, let's do it. And we had short negotiation about the price, and I sold the company to Senis for $1.6 billion. And that's reality. And you can ask what would happen if I wouldn't sell. I don't know. You never know. Could do amazingly, could do terribly. 2008 came with all the difficulties. Don't forget that. We could go and team with Hynix, or which actually wanted very much our partnership as another supplier of flash. Could happen. It could not. Maybe not. So I don't know. But I think it was a fair merger acquisition in a way. By the way, it's the finest merger because it was stock only. And I was very happy to continue and support SanDisk and see SanDisk over the years, working with Sanjay, of course, after Eli left, and then seeing how SanDisk is acquired by Western Digital and becoming what it is today. I just met the head of Western Digital in Israel that quit last week, and he came to, first thing he did, I think, he came to see me, which is a big honor for me. It's a guy that I hired for MSystems. I hired him 15 years ago. And he said, Dov, remember when you sold the company, we were about 1,000 employees in Israel. We are now even more than 1,000. I acquired a small company. Actually, I was very active on that in a place called Omer for the security division, because I really believe that security would go together with flash. I truly believe until now that SanDisk, Western Digital, they somehow missed it. This combination, which is so important. And there are other companies established to do things in this area, which I was supporting. But we acquired a small company in Omer to do security and to actually become our ASIC, the ASIC center, the Center for Silicon Design, and they're still there. And they, when we acquired them, there were 10 people. They grew to about 120 people in 2006. They are now 170 people. And I was so happy to hear that, hey, we did do something and it disappeared. It's still there. It's still running. It's still working. It still does. Great stuff. And I'm very proud for that.
So, Aryeh, we haven't given you much chance to talk a lot here. Tell me what roles you played in the very beginning. It sounded like you did a lot of the early innovation, but then it sounds like you switched more to like strategic planning, business development, that kind of thing. Tell me, if that's not right, tell me how your role evolved in the company from 1990 to 2006.
I think that after 1993, after that we did the IPO.
Oh, initially you were the VP of R&D.
Yeah, initially I ran technology in the company and handled all the technology side of the company. And then in 1993, I moved to the US to do the PC MCAA effort. And in a way, it was also our kickoff for the partnership with Maxtor and our selling of products in the US. And then when I came back to Israel, we didn't have good sales organization that wasn't successful enough. And then Dov told me, you understand the product the best, take sales on your responsibility, sales and marketing. And this is what I did until about 2001, when we moved to division structure as Dov described. And at that time, I took on the role of business development and did things like Nokia and the acquisition of this company that we did, and so on.
What year did you return from the U.S.? You had been there working on the PCMCIA and other things. When did you return?
It was 93 and 94.
Okay.
Between 93 and 94.
So you were in the US for a year or so?
Yeah, a bit more than a year. Yeah.
Okay. And then you came back and Dov asked you to take on, develop the sales organization to a much more.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, both Dov and us and me were very involved in the product, and all major product initiatives were areas that we were very involved on and worked on. Mm-hmm. And one key one that we didn't discuss yet was like the X4 technology, which was like the first QLC flash in the market. And you asked about SanDisk and what drove the acquisition. And I think that, as Dov said, there was like a discussion from time to time again and again. But I think that what happened in 2006 is that Eli started feeling really threatened on few things that we came out with. One of them was this X4 technology, the QLC technology that was able to store 4 bits per cell and was really revolutionary in flash. And the other one is the product that Dov described, the MegaSim, that was a big threat to the SD cards in mobile phones. And I think that acquiring us for Eli was beyond getting the system knowledge, which was like really complementary to what he did, and getting revenues of $1 billion. I think it was also getting the technology that we had that was really threatening for the next cycle.
And eliminating competition, practically.
Yeah, eliminating competition in a way. And Dov says, he doesn't know what would have happened, but between us, we both think that we could become like significantly bigger.
So
who knows?
You said that you had come up with the 4-bit per cell idea. You were not a component developer, but you came up with the fundamental architecture for developing that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think that you are touching exactly the right point, because a few years before, Intel, in parallel, I think, to SanDisk and Toshiba, came with the MLC technology, which stored 2 bits per cell. And the implementation of 2 bits were done inside the device. 2 bits is actually 4 levels, and they succeeded to do 4 levels with the device technology, I would call this. Mm-hmm. And when we said, okay, what can you do more on the system side? And we said, well, we can do more. And we tried to look, okay, what will be the right goal? And we said that the goal will be like to do 16 levels, which is 4 bits. And actually, Dov brought, I think, Amir Ban initially, and then Menachem, and that he mentioned to run this activity. And Menachem, which is really a really good manager with his legs on, with his feet on the ground, said, you cannot do this, right? It's impossible. But Dov and I think, told him, yes, but try this direction and this direction and this direction. And he's really a good manager and a good engineer. And he worked with different teams, developed really the key system technologies that enabled moving to 16 levels, which is 4 bits.
We actually worked with Toshiba. So the idea was, we are not a flash guys, but we are system guys. And truly to do a 4-bit per cell, you need to understand the system. You need to understand not just error correction detection, but how to really manage by silicon, many issues, edges, number of write cycles and handling of write cycles and spares. And we did actually build a system around to enable the X4. X4, does it exist? Then it became the X3 of SanDisk, actually. They used it for X3.
Today the market is in QLC, which is...
QLC is actually, that's probably one of the dominating things in flash. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about that systems side of it? Because I don't think there's a lot of understanding in the marketplace about that. So what is it about the systems side that was so key for the development of QLC? Well,
first you needed significantly more advanced error detection and correction codes. The error detection and correction code that were used until that time were very basic error detection and correction code. And we developed together with the scientists from the university error detection and correction code that were tailored to the error patterns that 16 levels of flash imposed on the system. And then there was a drift in the voltage that was different in different blocks of the flash. So we developed a technology to do on a block level type of referencing that was dynamic in real time that you needed. And we had many different such technologies that some of them were done in the controller and some of them were developed together with Toshiba inside the device.
The biggest breakthrough was the understanding that you should not implement a regular, strong, let's say, error detection correction code. Because there are codes in the market, but actually the nature of the mistakes are going to be very different. They might be very similar to, so you have to actually look at the specific characteristic of the flash and to develop a specific code, error detection code, that fits what's really happening in reality in the flash. This was a big breakthrough in doing this 4 bits per second.
So how long did that process develop the 4-level capability?
More than 3 years, right?
More than 5 years. We practically began the development sometimes in 2001, and when we actually sold the company, we had the samples working in 2006. Then SanDisk, for their whatever directions and reasons, they said, let's not do X4, let's go and do X3. And they implemented it actually, implemented technology on the X3. And several years later, that became the X4. Mm-hmm.
So was this dynamic per block? So it would be a different scheme basically per block within the NAND flash?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, it's even not just per, it's block, or it's actually blocks. And yeah, the nature of the errors, you know, if the level, let's say, is 7 out of 16 levels, 7 will go to 8 or will go to 6. It will not go from 7 to 10. So if you look at it on the analog way and not on the digital way, 0-1s, then the nature of the error detection correction would be very, very different, much more suitable. If you take anything on the digital level, then it's random bits that are changing their situations, but not if you look at it at I'm trying to give you insights into the code, but it's clearly, this is complicated.
So how many patents were built up on this technology that SanDisk ended up acquiring?
I really don't know, because hey, don't forget, I left the company before, we both left the company before it became a product, but we filed for many patents. We filed, I would estimate that for X4 by itself,
maybe 20, right?
10 to 20, I would figure out, that's a number. Yeah.
It was quite aggressive to go for 4 bits when the world was only working on 2 bits per cell.
I agree. We were aggressive. We were so stupid. We were aggressive on sometimes it worked for us, sometimes it didn't work for us.
So have we missed any major developments products with MSystems, or can we move on to the post-MSystem period?
We can move yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Let me start with Aryeh. So the acquisition is arranged. Tell me what direction you took, and did you stay with the company? And if not, what were your next steps?
Yeah, well, I left immediately after the acquisition, and I took a year off to rest, after close to 20 years working around the clock on the company. Yeah. And then about a year after, I met a guy from a different company that came to me and wanted to consult about building flash for data centers. And this is a project that we started looking at the MSystems day, but we didn't arrive to doing it because it was too early for flash and because of many other reasons. But I liked the guy, and we decided to co-found together a company around this. The company was called Extreme.io, and the concept for Extreme.io was to develop a flash for data center as a main flash array, not just a caching layer for data storage, which is what they did until then. We call this all-flash array, and actually generated the whole market for this. The company ended up being acquired by EMC and becoming most of EMC flash-based data centers development, and it was a very successful story. There are a few thousands of employees in this division now in Israel, and it is still running EMC, now Dell EMC, data center flash.
What year was that acquisition?
It was in 2012, I think, something like that.
So what is the current size of those products now? What units do they sell them in?
Or
Data center.
what the density is? It's hundreds of terabytes. There are in some cases, you can stack a few units and get to petabytes.
No, a single unit. What is the unit, smallest unit, so to speak?
I think in a single unit you can get 1 petabyte or something like that.
Okay.
So that would be in like a 1U or up to 3U?
Probably 3U.
3U? Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of the cloud infrastructure that we all use, unbeknownst to us, is based on this technology.
I think a major area of it. I think the flash in data center developed in 2 directions. One is the centralized storage, big storage systems like the ones that EMC did, and the other one is distributed, which was maybe pioneered by Google, and then more advanced by Amazon and by other players. So there are like two directions that it took, and this is maybe half of the market. Works in this way. But many of the technologies that were implemented inside are, of course, relevant to the whole market.
What was the major breakthrough or insight or technology that allowed you to capture that market?
Well, we went first with an application that stored a lot of virtual machine, which is what the infrastructure of data centers is built on this, in Amazon and in others. And if you look internally on those virtual machines, there is a lot of duplications inside. So we developed a very strong and unique deduplication technology that was tailored to work with flash. So this was one part of this that made the big difference for us. Another part is that we did a significant parallelism of SSDs in order to significantly increase the performance. Write performance was an issue, but we had significantly better performance than hard disks at the time, and we had significantly better reliability. So we could get to cost that was very similar to hard disks in many applications. Very, very fast. I think in 2 years after the acquisition, the company got close to $1 billion of revenues just from this one product. And today, flash is I think, more than hard disks in data centers in revenue numbers.
Mm-hmm. So how large was the company when you sold it to EMC?
So we were at the prototype stage. We weren't selling, actually. Okay. So we had 0 sales, and but all the big players at the time, IBM, NetApp, Dell, were competing on buying the company because we had like this 10 prototype units that we gave to customers, and all the customers came back to them and told them, that's what we want. EMC were investor in the company, and they told us that if what we do works, then this really changes all their business. Yeah. So this actually caused them to acquire the company. It was really a large amount to a company that has no revenues. It was, I think, about $450 million with zero revenues practically.
Well, it's always nice when you have people competing. That makes all the difference in the world.
I agree.
I assume there was a big patent collection that went along with that acquisition?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that took you to 2012, is that correct?
That's right. That's right.
So fill in the 2012 to 2020 period.
Okay, so I'm as you probably heard, we are computer people. So I went on and founded companies in different areas, still following what's happening in storage and looking at looking for the next big thing. And I didn't saw anything until about 2017, where I met two guys that ran Samsung flash activities in Israel. Samsung has an advanced flash technology center here in Israel, and they came with the idea that from the perspective of time, I can phrase it in perspective. When you look at the demand in flash and on densities and on performance, they grew so much that you couldn't deliver this with the way that flash works together today, and that worked until now. And actually, if you look how flash worked until now, it actually emulated disk drives. But flash now is much bigger than disk drive. Why emulate disk drive? So they came with the idea of developing, restructuring the storage stack in a way that will fit better the applications and will work better with flash. And this was around the key value data store concept idea, which is the way that modern file system and databases already work. When you look at the storage stacks, it has many redundancies that are built just because of this block interface. Mm-hmm. And we are actually developing in the company what we call a data processing unit, a DPU, which actually take this whole storage stack that is built with files and blocks below and FTL below, and many of them are doing the same things in a redundant way, and collapsing this to one layer that just does really, really fast key value store, currently getting performance numbers that are 50 to 100 times better than what you can get with current flash devices and with the current storage stack. And our belief is that this is the way that flash will be used in the future, and this will enable significantly faster and lower cost storage systems for data centers and beyond.
And
what is the name of that company?
Is Plyops.
And the company called Plyops, right. Thanks,
right.
Mike.
Yeah, you bet. And you folks are going to be a major, you have a major place in our upcoming Virtual Flash Memory Summit in October. So I see the program, and we'll be very happy to have you as part of the program this coming October.
We too. We are looking forward to this.
Okay. Dov, the sale happened in 2006. Take us from here to there.
Okay, so first I was requested by Sunnis to stay 6 months and help with the merger, and actually helped to reorganize the whole combined company, which they took halfway, they went halfway, my recommendation, but still I worked very hard to help reorganize, to go to all the customers, to transition from MSystems to SSDs. 6 months, after 6 months, one day, the last day of the contract, I called my guys, I said, in the noon, I said, guys, I'm allowing myself to leave today early because I didn't leave even one day earlier until now. At these 6 months, I worked really like crazy in Santa Clara, in Israel, in Tokyo, in Seoul, in Taipei, Hong Kong, I travel almost like every week. So I said, this is the first time I'm allowing myself to actually live at noontime. And I brought with me wine. We drink wine. We drink wine. Said, cheers, any problem, I'm always available for you. By the way, this is till today. And I left the company. I went I crossed the street. I went about 100 meters to the right, entered the building. This was my new company that I established this day, Modu, with the concept of doing modular phones, which was a great concept, but it didn't actually succeed. So I established modular phones concept. And at the same time, Eli asked me to become the chairman of Tower Semiconductor. And Modu had this idea of modular phones. iPhone came to the market. 2008, it was very difficult to raise money. I raised money from the wrong investors, did many mistakes on the way. And finally, at the end of 2010, I actually had to terminate the company. I sold the patents and the technology to Google, not for a lot. We could actually do much better job in selling, but this was the first time in my life that I sold really company assets. And on the other side, the Tower side, I came to Tower while Tower was in, I would say even deeply into bankruptcy with the loan of $400 million, negative gross margin. But everything was bad there. And with the management, of course, with the CEO, Russell, he's an amazing CEO, I succeeded to do a turnaround. So when I left the company, after 2.5 years as a chairman, the company was back on its full feet and working well and actually moving to profitability. We did the acquisition of Jazz, which was amazing acquisition. While on one side they say, I remember going to the banks, they had to approve everything because we had a huge loan to them. And there was a bank vice president that said, I'm not approving you to acquire Jazz. Because guys, you are the guys without a leg, crippled. And these guys, they don't have both hands. They are in terrible situation as well. Combining you and them will never create a good marathon runner. Forget about it. I had to pass him. I have to
go to the CEO of the bank.
I had to actually find my way to the CEO of the bank to get the approval to finalize this deal. But I'm very proud that this succeeded, and the company Tower is a great place, still working, value of several billions of dollars. Later, I established a few other companies. I began to invest in companies, and some of my companies still exist, doing okay, one way or not. Some of them failed. That's part of life. Every success comes with failures. And I began to invest, and I find that I enjoy very much the investment side. And about 5 years ago, I took a decision to move to the other side, from the entrepreneurship into the investment. It is a growth venture, a very unique fund, Israeli companies only, early stage, deep technology. Deep technology is a semiconductor, core, it's cloud infrastructure, core AI, science. We're not shy away from highly complicated stuff. And the concept in the fund is that we are not just investing, but we are truly putting our efforts and knowledge and know-how. When I invest in a company, I tell the CEO, listen, I'm your business development guy, use me. I'm for you. And I'll travel with them wherever required and help them make contracts. By the way, with some of them with Tower. So back to my relations with Tower. And we are doing very, very well. And I'm very happy with what I'm doing. I'm a very lucky guy. I really do for a living what really I enjoy to do more than anything else in my life. Seeing amazing entrepreneurs, seeing amazing technology. It's wonderful. Couldn't be better than that.
So we're not only interested in sort of the technology story, but we're also interested in the ecosystem story of startups and entrepreneurs and venture capitalists. And so you've had this opportunity to, start a company in Israel when it sounds like there was very little in terms of ecosystem investors, or whatever. And so tell me not how your companies have changed, but how the investment entrepreneurial ecosystem has evolved in Israel. And right now you have your own venture firm. What other venture firms are there? And, tell me about that ecosystem story.
So I tell you my belief about the Israeli ecosystems. I believe that there is a lot of amazing entrepreneurship in Israel. But by the way, let me fix something which is important to understand. It's not that in Israel there are smarter people. Actually, I can give you the proof that this is incorrect, but the proportion of entrepreneurs in Israel is much larger than anywhere else in the world. And there is explanation to that as well. So many entrepreneurs, but actually until 1993, there were almost no VCs in the country. There was one VC, very small, great guys, Dan Tolkovsky, still live at the age of 99, I believe. He was the first one, but there was no culture of investing in startups. The high tech in Israel until 1993 was mostly military stuff, one large company called Cytex that failed actually. In 93, the government actually, by establishing a program called Initiative that was sort of a safety net for VCs, gave a very positive, a very important push to the industry of VCs. And then about 10 VCs were established in 1993. And this was the beginning of the blooming period of the Israeli high-tech, because, hey, here comes money. You can actually get money from investors, come with ideas, and in a very short time, Israel became #1 in the world until today in number of entrepreneurs and initiatives, startups in high-tech, in proportion to the population, of course, of the country. So it's an amazing place, a lot of innovation, a lot of entrepreneurs, bold moves. We are doing well because we're not just Americans. We look at the American market, we look at the Chinese market, European market. We are not good in building large companies, so companies are acquired. And when I established MSystems, if someone would tell me that I will be acquired for $10 million, I would say, nah, come on, you are full of it, impossible. When I went public and people would tell me, hey, you should reach $100 million, there were no Israeli companies at the value of $100 million. We crossed it quite fast. Then we were acquired for $1.6 billion, and people said, wow, this was, I believe, the third or fourth largest acquisition of any company in Israel ever, $1.6 billion. Today, you see Mellanox last year, $7.8 billion. Mobileye, I was, by the way, coincidentally, the mentor of the Mobileye guys. In a way, they claim I was the mentor. My job was much lower. They are very smart by themselves. I helped them somehow, but this was $15 billion acquisition. So we do see the ecosystems growing with many more initiatives, amazing guys, amazing technologies, and I do hope that the government of the country won't succeed to spoil, to harm this, and that Israel will continue to be a great company for technology and entrepreneurship.
Now, for the venture firms, are they mainly homegrown, or are there U.S. venture firms that establish offices there? And
there are many VCs in the country. Majority of almost all of them are Israelis. There are some branches of American VCs. We do have here. We used to have Sequoia here. We do have a Benchmark.
Lightspeed,
Lightspeed,
Bessemer.
that's why these are the largest. But almost all of the VCs are Israelis, and you have to be Israeli to invest in Israel because otherwise you won't really understand Israelism, the nature of guys. You need to really talk with the people face to face, be very active in what's going on in the army, intelligence, navy, who works with who. So I think that to invest in Israel, you have to be Israeli.
Yeah, but in a way, the ecosystems was developed that together with the significant growth with Israeli funds, there is a big entrance of the bigger US venture firms and the corporate VCs from all over the world, from Germany and from Japan and from China. And
great activity. Intel is here, Microsoft are here, Qualcomm have a CVC, which is very active in Israel, great guys as well. I mentioned Norway's partners, by the way, it's amazing partners of us in Israel. Yeah, it's an amazing place. It's an amazing place. Again, we just hope that stupid governments won't actually kill the world and damaging the countries.
Let me ask one other dimension of that. In Silicon Valley, one of the reasons people give for its success is the idea that failure is not a red mark, but rather one step on in the path to success. And even just culturally around town, everybody understands that failure is part of the process. Is that same culture alive and well in Israel?
Absolutely, yes.
in a way now, now yes, but at the beginning,
not at the beginning.
we were not we couldn't.
By the way, even
admit on failure.
Even now, some people say. By the way, I did see 5 years ago when I went to raise money for the fund. And by the way, Aryeh is investor in the fund. I mentioned Ronnie Cornitz, late Ronnie Cornitz, he invested in the fund. Many other friends. But when I went to raise money for Grove, I still met stupid money managers in Israel that say, hey, you failed at Modu, we're not going to invest in your fund.
That's with the Israeli investors.
Israel, yeah, that's right. But there are some. But clearly in Israel, you know that if you want to succeed, you have to face disappointment, you have to face failures. My claim when I talk about myself, I did an overview in front of my investors in our latest LP meeting. And I said, guys, I did everything you can dream. I had a very long list of things I've done in high-tech. Establishing companies, raising money, privately, publicly, converts, B2B, B2C, IP claims, suits. I was sued, I sued others. And I say, that's a list. Actually, it's such a long list that if you find anything that could be done in high-tech that I haven't done, I'll give you a $100 bill. No one could come and take these $100 bills. And then I said, from all this long list, do you know what's really the most important one? Do you know what's the most important one that allows me to stand here, run your money, do whatever I'm doing as investor successfully? Failures. I failed so many times. You look at my back, full of scars. I failed many, many times. Even at MSystems, we did have many failures. We lost this battle of the cards. We learned, okay, this did work for us. Let's do embedded. Let's push there. We'll find our advantages doing the mobile disk on chip or the USB flash drive later on. So failures are important. Failures are part of the way to succeed. And by the way, if I take it back to Eli's story, which I just watched few days ago, clearly he had failures. Maybe he is less talking about it, but the fact is that Eli understood his failures, and every time he fixed things, he improved, he found the right ways in order to create his amazing success story. Failures are part of the story.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Aryeh, did Dov invest in any of your new ventures after 2006?
No, but
Kilos.
oh yeah,
We do have one joint investment. Yeah.
we have one joint investment. That's right.
Okay.
Right.
Doing quite okay.
Yeah,
Went public.
one public, right.
So, Dov, you have a number of artifacts in front of you. Have we seen them all? Have you told the story of each one?
But I think that the Zoom here, it's a great camera, but it's not actually allowing Zoom. So I do have, this is the first PC.
Yeah, it doesn't show up. It just, yeah, that back farther.
Go back, maybe this way.
It keeps focused on RA.
Too nice. Okay, but let's say PC second. I bought these components here. These are the mobile disk on chip. It's small components.
Oh, yeah.
If I take them out, hey, take a look. This is, I think this is 8 megabyte disk on chip. The component that we put into the Nokia 89,000. I have a book about failures. This is $1,000. A book I wrote. This was best seller. Talking about entrepreneurship. This is the disk on key, the first disk on key, which I saw before.
Yeah.
I'm not great in keeping all this history, whatever. We combined what we have here.
Brian, do you have some questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, I do have a couple of follow-up things. One comment about one of the companies that was purchased earlier this year in Israel, Mellanox. It was purchased by NVIDIA. And was a very interesting acquisition because Mellanox, which by the way has been a regular participant at our Flash Memory Summit for a number of years, they provide basically the infrastructure for tying together a backplane as well as, it's used a lot in data centers. So it's very high speed communication scheme that they've got. And so that was the reason that NVIDIA bought Mellanox. And in fact, instead of Mellanox speakers this year, we're going to have them under the name of NVIDIA. It's a big part of our Flash Memory Summit. But one of the things that's interesting, in fact, that Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he gave a kitchen talk, literally from his kitchen, because of the fact that the NVIDIA conference had to go virtual this year. One of the things he talked about was what's happening with the data center. He's calling the data center a single storage device. And the reason for that is by virtue of the Mellanox technology that they've now purchased. So the NVIDIA GPUs need so much memory and can do processing so quickly, they need lots and lots of memory, and they want it to look like it's all directly accessible memory as opposed to a storage device. So just want to underscore the importance of that Mellanox purchase for the future of NVIDIA, which of course is one of our biggest success stories in recent years in Silicon Valley.
What's your question related to that?
What was that again?
Question related to that?
I did it generally in Israel. Israel is a small country. And if you look at my history, MSystems, Navy, great guys, MSystems, Tower, Modu, Comigo, all the companies I'm investing now, I think that there's no one in Israel which doesn't know me or that I don't know him or know somebody who knows him. Now, from MSystems, many guys went and opened their own companies or became part of managements. For example, if you talk about Mellanox, the CIO of Mellanox, which is quite an important guy in the organization, is the guy who worked for me at MSystems and was the CIO of MSystems. Would you mention? Yes, great guy. So almost every Israeli company that you will talk about, I know the guys, I know people who work there. I'm related in a way to them. That's great. And of course, the CEO of Mellanox is, by the way, which are about 500 meters from here, from this place. He's a friend. We talk a lot. I try to help him. He tries to help me.
Excellent. A couple other points I wanted to raise. The similarities, Dov, in your background and Ellie's background. You fortunately made it out of the Holocaust. Ellie was fortunate enough to have his family immigrate to Palestine from Poland, although he did lose some family members. but he immigrated to Palestine in 1933. So you both have that similarity of the background in Poland and the horribleness of the Holocaust and the impact at that time. So I'm sure that there's a very deep relationship you established just implicit in that fact. So just wanted to bring that up. Also, the whole reason that we're having this conversation today in this oral history is the fact that the two of you were the Lifetime Achievement Award winners in 2018 at Flash Memory Summit. And so I'm so very happy that working with Jim Handy, he's the one who brought up that we should recognize MSystems. And the more we looked into it, the more we realized that of all the innovations that you've done over the years, you basically made Intel Flash usable for data before Intel itself did. You brought the USB flash drive, embedded flash systems, flash for the cell phone, and QLC flash before anybody was really realistically even thinking about even 3-level cell. So those are the things that we recognize you for, and I'm so happy we did, because as this conversation has shown today, so many fascinating things in your guys' background that a lot of people in the world really don't know, but fortunately a lot have been informed by way of that recognition in 2018, and I'll hope to listen to this oral history as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Dov and Aryeh, is there anything that you feel that we've missed? Any important milestones or products or developments that we should have touched on?
I'm fine. You did much more than you actually got from us, much more than what I planned to tell. And generally, I'm very happy to have this opportunity.
Yeah, it was really a pleasure and interesting. I think that we didn't do such a conversation, so it was an opportunity for both of us to look back at the history as well.
That's right.
Yes, we sometimes find that two people that have known each other for quite some time learn new things by being brought together in this oral history format. Just for your interest, we had such a conversation between Gordon Moore and Arthur Rock, the founder and funder of Intel. And in the process of that conversation, Gordon discovered some things about, you, Arthur Rock, wrote the business plan. I thought Bob Noyce had written the business plan. So, yes, we enjoy bringing entrepreneurs together to have a little self-discovery along the path. So thank you very much. We very much appreciate your time and devotion to this. And
one question. You're going probably to edit it, because this was very, very long. So you'll probably squeeze it to an hour or something like that.
No. We will transcribe the whole thing. Okay. In text form, and we will do the preliminary edit and then share it with you, ask you to do any final corrections or whatever, but it will be published in its full format, no editing or whatever.
I don't see that anybody's going to look for something which took how much time? How much
3 hours.
About 3 hours.
That's okay. The story is the story, and if it takes 3 hours, it takes 3 hours. I think it's a very worthwhile
I do have this dream. One day, my grandchild, will ask himself, "Oh, I heard about this grandfather. Let me learn about him. Hey, this would be great."
Exactly.
Thank you very, very much. Really pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.